Welcome everybody to the bigger picture. We were gone for 2 weeks, I guess. Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah,
This is
2 weeks.
the third week. And with the bigger picture, if you're gone for 2 weeks, the world blows up. The news stories are insane. We're gonna talk mostly about the geopolitical situation because it's very serious in
Yeah.
both our opinions, and I think in everybody's opinion. But there are actually some really major UAP stories that came out this last week and the week before that we are also going to talk about. But we're going to sort of start off with the geopolitical stuff and get out of the way. And then I'll put a timestamp down below in the YouTube video for the people who want to watch later and they want to skip to the non-controversial UAP stuff. But yeah, we have to discuss what's
By
going
the
on.
way, they picked the right time to do disclosure that nobody will pay attention on the disclosure.
Well, that will be my one of my points. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
we'll come to that. But I'm just saying it's because like a person like me, everybody knows, whoever listened to our podcast, that I'm very much into UFOs, and I didn't pay attention because the other thing is so big. So that was like the ideal time to drop the truth.
And that's why you got me, right?
Yeah.
I'm focusing on the UAP stuff because I can't help myself. But yeah, the Middle East stuff was so insane. Of course, I was also following that. But okay, but let's take your take first.
Okay.
And maybe before we go on, we'll put out a disclaimer, right? We're talking not about people, right? Not
Exactly.
about the Iranian people or the Jewish people. There's suffering on both sides. People are going tremendous trauma, and not only those regions, right? The neighboring regions and the impact on the whole world, right, will be
It's
immense.
gonna impact us starting from next week because Strait of Hormuz is closed. That's a breaking for right now, and that that will impact everything.
Yeah. I think Trump put out a tweet just now, like if China can sort of intervene and open it up again, or prevent it from closing. But yeah, I saw the Iranian parliament voted in favor. Kind of
Yeah,
obvious.
China can, but like, what will China do? Like, did Trump ask China before attacking them? Like, how? Now you're asking China's help.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be a geopolitical strategist to have seen these second and third order effects,
Yeah.
coming around the corner, right? I mean, that's yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, what's your take?
Okay, let's start with the beginning. What actually happened? These are just the facts. I'm not even gonna give my opinion on that. The fact is, a month ago, the like two more than 2 months ago, Trump gave a timeline to do dialogues, and once that dialogue will happen, they will restart this nuclear deal. So that was the whole thing, and then the dialogues were going very very well. Like they were not even in the same room, Iranians and Americans, but then they started to mingle more, and the dialogues were going well, and it crossed 2 months timeline, but this was like going really well. And then Israel didn't like it. For some reason they decided to attack Iran out of nowhere. And when I say nowhere, that was not even planned or anything. There was no news out. They just attacked them and killed the command of IRGC. It's like the ruling party of Iran or something.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, can I chime in there? I
Yeah.
mean, if you look at it like purely militarily, it was, perfect execution, right? I mean, yeah. I mean, if that's your, if that's your lens and you're looking at it from that
Yeah,
perspective,
but
like,
you just don't see like what you're doing. You need to see what's the outcome of that. What's the
yeah.
outcome of that?
I mean,
No reason.
strategically, it's insane, but militarily, it was
Yeah, but when you're
brilliant.
dealing with a country, you need everybody understand that commanders, generals, they are replaceable. If you kill someone, someone else will take over. That's
Yeah, okay, but in a hierarchy, if you take out like the elite commanders in one swoop, like they did, I mean, they did take, remember that Friday and half the internet was down. I mean, everybody sort of knew something big was coming, and of course, Israel couldn't take down half the internet, so that was America
Yeah.
helping Israel. But
America was definitely. We will come to that, but
yeah,
but the point with this taking out a soldier, it's actually not a good idea, because when you remove old blood, you get the young blood in, and young blood is more devastating for the other side because they are more aggressive. They fire back, and you could see that when the old generals were there, Iran was not doing anything, even though Israel attacked them last, and they promised True Promise 3 like a year ago, and they didn't respond. So they were pretty chill. But this
Mhm.
young blood, they actually did the devastation. If you see the videos, which I see all the time, it's like crazy. So I think it was a bad move to start
Yeah,
with.
yeah,
Anyway, so they took out the main command, not the main command, but a lot of them, like the head of IRGC and head of the army as well. So in Iran, there are two different factions. Not factions; they are like they work together, but they are like two different group who rule Iran. So after that new command taken, I'm so surprised that within 24 hours, less than 24 hours, they were able to reappoint everyone, and then they come up with a plan and start launching this attack.
yeah,
uh, and this is the first time Israel got hit in its history. Every time before, Israel was not taking any blow. It was always the other side, like Palestinians were getting bombed crazily, and we saw the whole thing in last 2 years. So Israel was safe, but first time the Israelis actually uh, start seeing the death and destruction in their own country. And I really feel sorry for the civilians over there, because that's not what they want. Actually, the civilians were protesting against Netanyahu before.
yeah. Yeah, because
So they
the judicial, like there's a big thing around judicial power and
exactly,
Netanyahu, and there was
yeah.
a lot of opposition against him, and I wonder, right? Because I mean, this move, like I said, militarily it was incredible because Iran is a very powerful foe. My first opinion was like, they're insane, like, taking it up against
It
Iran.
wasn't incredible. It was incredible, like if you see it in the cunning way. But the problem is like
Yeah, the
this is where
fallout,
United
fallout.
States
Yeah,
come in, because
yeah,
United States fooled Iranians. They were working with Israelis from the beginning. That, oh, no
yeah.
attack will happen to you, so don't worry. Go to your home, keep your guard down, and then they got attacked.
Yeah, but yeah. Okay, sorry for keeping interrupting you. After this, I'll shut up and then you
No
can
worries,
finish
no
the
worries.
story. But yeah, this strike that they did has, it had to be like years of planning
Exactly.
towards it, and then the whole setup, like you said, taking Iran's guard off was also planned, right?
Yeah.
Because they were sort of negotiating, and Trump was not really where he should be, and then they struck, right? And then even from what also makes it really weird, which makes me wonder, is like just a week before, Besant was with China, and they got an accord on rare earth minerals and the whole economic situation, which is now out of the window, of course. So I wonder, like, what came out of that accord with, or that understanding with Besant. Like, was there really an accord, or was this more important in their opinion? Because basically, it means that won't get any rare minerals from China, of course, and also no cooperation on economics, except for whatever is
Yeah.
necessary for China.
And secondly, now after all this whole scam they pulled off on the Middle East, nobody will trust United States' word,
Yeah,
because they say
yeah,
one thing.
yeah,
Why would China believe them? Like,
yeah,
why
yeah.
they
Yeah.
are saying one thing and doing the opposite? So
They
no,
destroyed it.
yeah, and China is like the biggest enemy of United States. So they will be like, we need to be very careful, and they are in alliance with Iran. So
Yeah.
so this is the whole bad situation. But before we go further, I just want to say China will not interfere militarily
Well,
in
they
this
did.
war.
They did offer the backing, right? But I do agree. Like,
That's
uh,
diplomatically. That's diplomatic. They can provide weapons, but they won't interfere directly.
And there's like, you got a new freight train that was
Yeah,
created between the One Belt Road Initiative from
exactly.
China, which roads goes all the way to Iran. So probably a lot of those. I think that's actually probably because it doesn't make any sense what happened, right? Because for Trump, this is basically political suicide, or maybe it's like real suicide because everybody can kill him now. Um, but um, but it's also political suicide, right? He had one promise, like there was one promise he should have kept. All the other
Yeah,
promises were sort of negotiable.
yeah.
Everybody was sort of willing to say, okay, whatever. It's a little bit corruption, a little bit this, a little bit that, but no more wars, or at least less wars, not total war. Like this is. So I think in
This,
order
yeah,
to understand what happened here, the only way to understand what just happened is to see it in the broader geopolitical context, and that it doesn't have to do with Iran and Israel. It has to do with U.S. and China, right? Uh,
no, I
let's just
think
talk about Iran.
it is no, 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 no. It is exactly what Elon Musk said few weeks ago that Trump is on Epstein list, and we know what Epstein operation was. So this they made him do, I think through blackmail or whatever. The one
Yeah, but
thing,
but yeah, but
it's not just me and you are saying. It's Elon Musk who was the main member of his cabinet.
I
Who,
know,
yeah,
yeah. Now, look, okay, yeah, I know what you're gonna say, but my take is a little bit different. I do
mhm,
think that Elon did what he did because he didn't agree what was to come next, which is this, and I think he wanted to, pull out, and but he used a different excuse to pull out, and
yeah.
that's I think, and I do think that you're right about the bringing up the Epstein files. I think that's gonna blow up pretty soon, and but. Um, but I don't think that Trump did what he did because of the Epstein files. Because think about it, like, okay, so they have a file on you. First of all, why didn't they use it when they tried to kill him when he was trying to become a president? Like they could have used it back
No, but
then.
Israel
They
was not
didn't.
trying to kill him. Israel
Okay, but
wanted him in. Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah, like
secondly, but
yeah,
okay, but secondly, then maybe they only use it at pivotal moments like these, that they pull out these files and say, okay, do it. uh, but if you are Trump and you're doing this, you'll lose all your political support, probably your life, and also your family's life, right? Because they will also be forfeit if he falls. The whole family falls.
yeah. But the problem
So
is,
it's suicide either way. So why not come clean and say, okay, I'm being blackmailed. I'm not going to do this.
yeah,
Screw it.
no, that's not he got because like it depends what's in the list. We all know Jeffrey Epstein and Trump was really good friends. He actually introduced Melania to her, so you can understand like how many other girls he have introduced to him before. So this is not the secret. The problem is what is in there. If, for example, something related to pedophilia is in there and they have the videos, then Trump can't come out and say it because then he will go to jail and so many other things. So that's why he wanted to save himself. I don't think
I don't know.
in United States his family will be in trouble because that's his crime, not his family. Yeah, they will never be in politics again. That's one thing for sure. Even
Well,
if, yeah. For example, JD Vance is done because nobody will gonna vote for him because nobody gonna trust him. He is
well,
in the cap.
some people say this is the moment, that the deep state can basically kill Trump because he has no support anymore.
No, I think the
And then it's like the vice president will take over, right?
yeah, but I think there is a law that you president have to serve 2 years more than or 2.5 years, more than 2 years before vice president take over. Otherwise, vice president just is there to do next election. So
Mhm.
they have to do something. I'm not expert on the law, but this is somewhere I read that it has to president had to serve certain amount of time.
By the way, there was something I want to highlight before I forget it. But yesterday, when they struck, it was also Solstice. So It's like a very important astronomical
And
day to
that's
you.
the day Trump chose to attack Iran.
Yep, makes
Yeah,
you
there
wonder.
is. Yeah, makes you wonder, and a lot of like things are putting in place according to the prophecies. It looks like somebody is trying to fulfill the prophecy. So, but again, there was back in
Yeah,
the
go
day.
on. Because you were telling a story.
Yeah, so let's just go back to the war thing first. So, Iran responded, and according to Colonel McGregor, one third of Tel Aviv is destroyed. We are not seeing the full videos because there is like a lot of blackout in Israel, and they passed a law that you are not allowed to post any video of the destruction, even though people are posting, but they have criminalized it. If they caught posting it, they can come and arrest you, and they have arrested some people. These are the news out there. So, according to McGregor, a lot 30% of that is destroyed. Israel have stopped his people from leaving Israel because if they leave, I don't know what's the reason behind it, but I think they don't want them to leave, and then the people will say stuff about that.
Did you hear? I heard somebody, a friend of mine, mention that I'm not sure if that's true, but that Trump just passed a law to protect the Jewish people in America or something along those lines.
Well, that's fine. Jewish people, nobody has a problem with Jewish people.
Yeah, no, but I mean that they are sort of a protected people or something. That there's
Yeah,
actually yeah.
well, I don't even want to go into that thing. He can pass all these things. It doesn't matter because the problem is not with the Muslims versus Jews. It's the problem with like Zionist versus non-Zionist. That's what is happening because z- not only Jews are the Zionists, because like Christians are like a big group of Zionists who support Israel. There's like a big group of Muslim Zionists, which shocks people, but that's a fact. The whole Middle East area, UAE, Bahrain, uh, Kuwait, e- these are very Zionist state. Saudi Arabia is like crypto Zionist, you can say, because they don't
Yeah.
come out openly, but inside they are, at least their kingdom, not the
Well,
people.
yeah.
People
Yeah,
of Saudi Arabia are not. They hate Israel.
yeah. Yeah, well, the Saudi Arabia is, of course, now getting a little bit worried about, the potential fallout of this mess.
Oh,
But
Saudi
I think they
Arabia.
were sort of laughing their ass off, while the US and China, Israel were doing the heavy lifting to take out their rival
Yeah.
next door, right?
Yeah, but Saudi Arabia is on the receiving end of the devastation. Secondly,
Yeah,
nobody,
they will.
no, including Israel and Trump, nobody expected Iran to be this competent because, like, their missile system. I'm watching the videos; they are insane. Like, they have shown that for last 30 years they were working on one technology and they were really good at that. They didn't build their tanks, they didn't build their planes. They just built one thing: their missiles, and they have
And drones, and drones.
and drones, yeah. Well, that's it. Unmanned drones is like a missile anyway.
And
Because,
terrorist cells all over the world.
well, that is something very disputed.
Well,
Because they did not build it, they did support. They are two things. But we can say that same thing about Israel, too, right? United States
uh,
support Israel.
Yeah,
So same
true.
thing.
I mean, there's a lot of semantics going on.
Yeah,
When one person attacks, it's called a preemptive strike, and when another attacks, it's
yeah.
called aggression. And you can go through
It's
the list of these things.
yeah.
You
And
know,
regard okay, so anyway, after this destruction, for a few days, Israel was asking Trump to intervene, at least in the back channels, which you could see the news which were coming out. Not like they were not doing it openly because they want to show that they are the big boy, not the they didn't want to show that they were losing, but they want Trump to intervene, and Trump intervened despite fooling everyone again because he said, "I will take decision in 2 weeks," and
yeah.
then he he did what he did.
Oh, I mean, you do have to give him credit. Oh, by the way, my name is incorrect. I see. I forgot to change it. So, okay, so my it's Bitcoin Live.
Oh yeah, GB.
Yeah. Well, he does do that very well, Trump. Like
Yeah, but
keeping his
Deception
cards
is
close
not
to his
like good for
chest.
your legacy. This is
No,
the
no,
thing.
no. Yeah, I mean, in these kind of cases, if this would turn out okay, which it won't, but let's say it would have been like a surgical strike and then making up. Like I think the plan was, surgical strike and then make up.
So first
But
thing, Iran said clearly they don't want to build a nuclear weapon. They just want to enrich uranium to do power work, which is like civilian purposes, which is like every country have a right to build a
yeah, okay,
nuclear technology. Nuclear bomb is not sorry, nuclear technology is not used
I
for
know.
just for, yeah. So this is, and they were through Obama deal, they were doing the whole inspections. IAEA was there
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah, yeah.
So it was like, yeah, hypo. Anyway, so this was the this was going on, and then Trump ripped it off. They just, now we need to come back to the original plan, which was
Mhm.
of the 7 countries going to be overthrown, regime changed. It has been, I can't remember the guy's name who actually come up
Yeah,
with that,
yeah. I think I
but
actually.
Iran was the last country in that. So this is what they did.
Yeah, wait. I think I got it here. Of course. Give me a moment. You just continue.
Okay, so Iran was the last country, but this is not the end. This is like the first phase. The second phase is going to be Arab countries. I'm telling you. So
This is
they
your
want.
prophecy, right?
This is the prophecy. Actually, this is where the religion comes. What they did right now is remove all the. They want to remove all the other resistance, so they can actually go. And everybody know Arabs are weak. They cannot defend themselves. They are
I think
already
is it this one? Can you take a look?
Richard Pearl or something. This is also correctly right. Yeah.
And so this is a different one, right?
This is a different one. But I think
Okay.
the original report came out in 1993 by Richard Pearl or something. I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
So,
But anyway, you want to play it or not?
yeah, let's play it.
Okay. You got a lot of these, conspiracies.
Up, Americans, you're about to be pulled into a war with Arabs, with the Muslim world, and you're going to be made to believe that something horrible that happened to you was done by the Muslims. But it wasn't done by the Muslims. It was done by a wild card, the Israeli Mossad, that's cunning and ruthless and can carry out attacks on Americans and make it look like Arabs did it.
That's the literal definition of a false flag. I didn't write that. That's a false flag.
That's not my conspiracy theory. That's the U.S. Army report.
The day before, published the day before 9/11.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. What do you have to do with that kind of information?
No, this
I mean,
is, well,
no.
I don't even want to go on the whole 9/11 situation because I want
Yeah.
to talk what is happening right now. So this
Yeah.
is the last phase once Iran is gone, which I hardly doubted with their capabilities. One thing they miscalculated. Everyone thought when Israel will attack, the people of Iran will rise up because it's a known fact to everyone that everyone in Iran hate their regime. I know a lot of Persians, they don't like Ayatollahs and everyone. But what happened is totally opposite. Everyone in Iran united because they need to understand the nation state. Iran is like a 6,000, 5,000 year old civilization. They are nationalist. When when there is a foreign threat, they all unite and fight. This is the miscalculation happened on United States part and Israel part because they thought they will overthrow IRGC and they will put that Shah, the dumbest guy.
Yeah. Pahlavis.
He will never be the king of Iran because even the people of Iran will choose something. They will go democrat. They will choose democracy. Why will anybody put a king in Iran? Like, they are not stupid. People think they are stupid. Yes, there are imperialist Iranian who want king, but they are not in Iran. They are living outside Iran, like in United States and Canada and England and all. So if you see like Iranian talking about imperialism, they are not in Iran. The people in Iran, even though they hate IRGC, but they are right now they are united because they are fighting a foreign threat.
Yeah.
Now come back to Trump's attack. What Trump did was extremely. First of all, he wanted to attack nuclear facility. He
Mhm.
totally miscalculated. That is 800-meter deep inside the mountain.
Yeah.
So when he dropped those bombs, it did nothing except destroy two entrances of the cave.
That's the
That's
claim. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like even the Fox News claimed that. I was reading a Fox News report, and then Iranians came out. They said there, and then there are like Saudi Arabian nuclear monitor. They have the sniffer on. They noticed there was no radiation out. It means nothing happened to the facility. Secondly, IAEA also said that there was no radiation leak in that area. So it means they did nothing, just bombed the top side of the building. The actual facility is so deep that I think you need a tactical nuke no, they first need a bunker buster to
Yeah.
drill the hole and then drop tactical nuke in that. Then they will be able to. This is
Okay,
the
but then the question is, if it's purely civilian, like why the hell would they build it so deep into the
for a
mountain?
specific reason because
And it is.
no, for this specific reason that they were on the list of those 7 countries which going to get destroyed.
And but okay, yeah. Sorry, I played the wrong clip. I don't want to spread, anti-Semitism or conspiracy. Not
Yeah,
the wrong kind of conspiracies.
yeah. I think it was the wrong clip, but
But but I can I get sent so many stuff, so sometimes I sort of lose
yeah,
track. But
but
anyway, it is a valid clip. If you haven't seen it, I'll also link it down below. Make up your own mind. But my real question is actually, so I've seen that video of 7 nations. I think even Hillary Clinton at some point mentioned it or sort of
yeah.
referred to it, I think. But what's the point? Why? I mean, why?
The point is simple. In order to fulfill the prophecy, actually, let's come to the prophecies.
Yeah. Okay.
So Netanyahu is a part. It's not like a mainstream Jew. I think that he's a part of the faction where his mentor rabbi prophesies that he is going to be the last president who will usher in the era of their Messiah.
Yeah. Okay.
Their
Yeah.
their Messiah. Anyway, so he was prophesied and his brain worked in that way. So what's their actual plan is to make greater Israel. Iran is not in that plan. However, Iran is the biggest uh, rival, like you can say biggest resistance in that plan because they took out Syria. As long as Israel
It's all Shiite,
in Iran.
basically that they took out, right? Syria, Lebanon.
No,
Uh,
Syria is not Shiite. Syria is actually Syria
well,
is
they were aligned, Alawite. They're
They were
Alawite.
Alawites, yeah.
Yeah.
Alawites were the ruling party, but they were
Yeah.
like the minority ruling over Sunnis.
Yeah, and sponsored by Iran.
Sponsored, but more like alliance because
Yeah.
Iran
Okay.
didn't actually come to help him this time. First of all, like if you look at from Shia perspective, the Alawites are not even considered Muslims
Yeah, heretics.
because because they go like crazy. So according to even Shia Islam, they are not Muslim, but they were aligned on you can make alliance with anyone, so they were aligned.
Yeah, but basically, Iran made alliances with all the minority groups in the region that are threatened because they're basically heretics.
Not everyone. For example, in Iraq, Shias are the majority, so they have a
Yeah, true. Yeah, with Saddam
yeah
Hussein.
yeah. So they have alliances with different whoever is just aligned with their ideology. But if they take Iran out, then the road is clear. I- then Israel can go take Sinai. Who will stop them to take Sinai? They will take. They already took out Hezbollah. Hezbollah is done, I think so. And
Yeah,
then they will easily go and take out the parts of Lebanon. Syria is already in their control. Uh, Jordan is a useless country. They will take over Jordan within a minute. seriously, in a minute they will take it. They will just take out this
Yeah, okay,
thing.
but okay. So the idea is that, at least then, according to you, from Netanyahu's perspective, is that they want to expand Israel, and that they need to clear out their rival, which is Iran and some other,
Which can give them hard time.
and then the other Arabs will just step aside and.
They can't fight. So there is one hurdle. I will come to that, but they will take out Jordan and then half of Saudi Arabia.
And then the Messiah will arrive if that happens.
This
In their
is like
opinion.
they have different prophecies. Like once you build the greater Israel, then Messiah will come. Not
But
necessarily.
let's say all of that's true. I mean, you have like the 10th man, right? In Israel military doctrine, like, somebody has to take the opposite perspective in order. You have it even in World War C. There's this scene where they, that one person thinks, oh, there are actually zombies, and we have to protect ourselves from zombies.
Yeah.
So isn't there anybody in Israel's military HQ who might think this is actually totally insane and we shouldn't do
a lot
it?
of them. All the left wing party think this is insane. Likud is
But also, I mean, in the military itself, right? Because the politics
military is under the president control. Even though they think something, but they will follow the command.
Yeah,
Whatever
but basically what they're doing is suicidal, right?
Not necessary, because they know that United States is on their side, even though they have to sacrifice few people, which is no problem, because like the big people, they don't care. Like the leaders don't care about their like civilians. If they die, if like few hundred die, few thousand die, nothing matters as long as they achieve their goal. It's not like even the United States doesn't care about his people right now. If they did, why did they attack Iran, which jeopardized like 50,000 soldiers' life in Middle East?
Okay. The seven states, Messiah, bigger Israel, and then what? And what happens then?
Well, this is now, by the way, this whole Messiah thing is not like a political analysis. This is more like a conspiracial thing. So people need to understand we are jumping from one thing to another. So this is like the whole conspiracy thing. Anyway, so there are different factions in Judaism. One thing, they have to do this. The other faction is like Messiah will come first, and then there will be a greater Israel. So you see the Hasidics who are opposing Zionist regime. You see a lot of like the big head Jews who oppose Israel everywhere. They do protests and everything. So this is a group which is opposite. They say that you are not allowed to do greater Israel until Mashiach is here, and he will usher in the greater Israel. So there are two different groups. And who those Hasidics in Israel? There are Hasidics in Israel. They oppose the government, and they do not serve in the IDF.
Yeah. Okay. But okay. But there is also another possibility, right? I mean, I mean, kudos to you, because you did sort of warn for quite a while that the Middle East will blow up, and that the big war will become in, and that that would be bad for stocks. Even though Bitcoin is holding up pretty well, I have to say, better than last year when
a lot
there was also a strike, and then it fell like 9%.
But exactly, people think I'm still saying stupid shit, but this is what is happening right now. I already, like a year ago, I told you that this is gonna happen. Iran will go, and I think there is 60% chance Iran will fall. Iran will lose. Iran will be decimated. They could drop nukes on Tehran, then the Ayatollah is gone and IRGC is finished, and then the next phase will begin.
Yeah.
Okay. The wild card right now is Pakistan, because that's
Well, I mean, you can go a lot of different roads, but one of the things that is for me very obvious is, like, if you are a nuclear armed state like North Korea or Pakistan, and you're looking at what happened in Iran,
Yeah.
then you might think like a preemptive strike is not such a bad idea, right? You basically have two options.
And
Either
no,
you're gonna cower in a corner and give up, or you're
but
gonna,
by the way,
well, my sort of take is, Russia and China are, first of all, they're taking a very diplomatic route
yeah,
at the moment. Like they actually, I think I got it here. Give me a moment. Yeah, I think I got it here. So at the moment, they're actually proposing a peace deal, or at least a ceasefire deal. UN draft resolution calling for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in the Middle East. I think Russia and
it's not
China
gonna go anywhere.
and the BRICS
Because
now.
even though they do ceasefire with the United States, Iran is not gonna first of all trust them, because this is what happened. They trusted them that the promise was broken, and Israel already said that they're gonna keep attacking Iran. Anyway, this
Yeah,
is this is not gonna go anywhere. Like the peace talks, I knew from the beginning peace talks are not going anywhere. But I sent you one thing regarding. Okay, let's just read this. Putin was asked if he is not assisting Iran.
yeah, no, yeah. So I think,
Yeah, this is a very old clip. Recently, he put in like few days ago said, we are not assisting Iran because we offered them, but they said they don't need it. But if they need it, we will go there. This is like very
yeah,
old. Yeah. So the
yeah,
current state, we'll go with the current statement, right?
yeah,
So I sent
yeah,
you one thing. I want to say, I want to come back to that. So the wild card Pakistan we are talking about, you already start seeing tweets like that from pro-Israeli account, which are now criticizing, which are now making Pakistan a boogeyman.
Mhm. Yeah. Pakistan is just as dangerous as Iran, maybe worse. It's a global engine of jihad, blasphemy laws, etc., etc.
Islamic supremacism, state-backed terrorism, these
Yeah,
things. So Pakistan is watching that. Understand, they are not stupid. They know what's coming for them right after destruction of Iran. So there is a
yeah,
possibility that they will not let Iran fall, because the war will come to. First of all, if Iran fall, it means Israel is on the border of Pakistan, because Pakistan border,
yeah,
they cannot
yeah.
deal with that. China doesn't want that too, because China have deeply invested in Pakistan. They don't want destabilized Pakistan. So,
No,
if,
yeah, yeah. So, but that's my whole point, right? I mean, if you're a strategic analyst and you're working for the U.S. or even Israel, or a Western intelligence agency, the fallout of this operation is immense, right? I mean, it's almost so. For Trump personally, I think it's you know uh, hard to overstate how disastrous this will be.
you
Um,
can
per,
already see a lot of mega accounts who are
yeah,
who are regular Americans turning against him. Dave Smith, who was cheering for Trump for a very long time, said recently that impeach Trump.
yeah. So but that's the point, right? So he will lose his support. I think at least 50%, maybe more. He will have no backing, right, or very little backing. So, like I said, he will be sort of, for the deep state, he will be a very easy target to either manipulate or take out.
Exactly.
And but I think also for Israel, like Israel is a very small country, like it's very tiny, right? The only reason that they could take out so many of the missiles of Iran was because a lot of these anti-missile systems are based in Iraq and surrounding countries. Plus, of course, a lot
No,
of
but
those
their
missiles were
Iron
taken out
Dome is,
with the
they are
battle
failing
kit.
badly. I
Yeah,
see destruction videos a lot. So they
yeah,
can take out some, but they are not taking out everything, and that's why you are
yeah,
seeing devastation.
yeah. But
Regarding Trump's support,
yeah,
Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk is like a biggest mega supporter. He ran a poll on his Twitter
yeah.
that about this war, and 93% of the people of his audience, which is like extreme right wing, said no to the war.
Yeah, well, because and talking about nuclear weapons, like basically the Medvedevs that they are willing to deliver them on Iran's doorstep if they need them.
Yeah.
Right. So and that's my point, right? So they just ignited a conflagration in the Middle East. They have a very tiny country, and they need all the surrounding U.S. equipment and military installations and battle ships in order to protect their country. Because without all those installations and U.S. assets in the region, how the hell can they defend themselves from what is coming down the pipeline, right? Because Pakistan, like you said, Pakistan is not going to sit around. North Korea is not going to sit around. I think the only thing is, that they will wait their moment, right? But
Pakistan is not going to interfere directly until it's like existential crisis, because Pakistan has a policy not to interfere other people's war. They will stand out and they will try to do it diplomatically, unless it's like existential crisis for them, then they might. And if China told them to do it.
But I think so what Russia and China is doing is they're taking careful notes of how this operation was conducted, and they took note of the fact that the entire internet has been weaponized. So in the previous years, we found out that the financial system is weaponized and increasingly becoming more and more weaponized. Now we found out that we already found that out, right, with the mobile phone attack in, I think it was Gaza, or was it in Syria?
No, it was in Lebanon. It was pager.
When all those telephones and pagers and stuff.
Pagers,
yeah. So, but now we found out that they are willing and to weaponize the entire internet against a nation if that's if they don't like that nation. So China and Russia and North Korea and Pakistan, they will grow closer together, and they will organize and coordinate more closely together. And wait for their moment to strike. And they are taking note of the fact how this operation was conducted, and that they don't trust the internet. They will build their own separate firewalls. And
it's more than that, because like if these statements which are coming constantly from pro-Zionist account, and they are like spreading a narrative against Pakistan, which they cannot afford. So they probably now everybody have a justification to do preemptive strike, and Pakistan.
And use very heavy military.
So and then understand, Iranian still follow Islamic rules, because they are Islamic Republic. They try to avoid civilian casualties as much as possible. Pakistan does not. Even though they say they're Islamic, they don't. The recent war with India, they killed tons of civilians. They are like, it's a mistake that you will think that they will care if there are civilians in the building. They they fight like crazy people. So they will kill civilians, and they can probably drop nuke, because they have nuked, and they built a Shaheen 4 missile specifically for Israel. If you don't know, the range of that was specifically designed for Israel, so they can reach Israel. It's Shaheen 4 missile. Everything else they have is for India, which can easily go there. But they build like 4,000 kilometer missile, which is Shaheen 4, for a specific that reason.
And of course China also equips them. That we saw with the Rafale failure, and but so my take is I think we're moving into people like Jeff Booth have predicted this like 5 years ago, and I've also tweets from multiple years ago where the whole the way the current system is set up, it was sort of inevitable. There were basically two options, right? Either you would grow gradually towards one world government slavery system with CBDCs, and the other option is the one that we chose together, is the wildcard option, and that will likely also end up there. But it will be way more messy and unpredictable, and and it will also be unclear if it will be one world government or multiple world governments, or if the whole thing blows up in their faces.
Anything could happen, but I will say.
But the point, what I want to say is like, when sort of deglobalization began, when COVID didn't work and they started fighting against each other, when the Ukraine war broke out almost immediately after COVID stopped, because they need to print money, right? So they did some kind of war to keep this charade going. But that means, that the players their incentives were no longer aligned at the top. Russia, China didn't want to play along with America. That went okay for a while, but then, as the system becomes more and more unstable, you get more and more proxy wars, and at some point, somebody makes a mistake or makes a move, right? Because you can also say this was a move by the US to win, right? To win this game. Because I want to play. I'm not sure if you saw this interview, but this interview from Sean Ryan that came out a while ago is a must watch, from Steve Quast. And I want to play 2 small clips from it. I'm not going to play the entire thing, even though he doesn't mind if you do, which is pretty cool, by the way. This one?
We legitimately don't know what China is doing on the other side of the moon.
No, we don't. Yeah.
I'm getting real upset.
If China can cool their quantum computers with helium-3 before we can, the jig is up. This is part of the power of space. And this goes back to why truth and information is the most important element. It's back to Sun Tzu and the art of war. Know thy enemy, know thyself. And if you are deceived in your own arrogance, eventually you're going to be a dead man.
Okay, that's one. And that's all pretty. And so that's a small clip from that interview, but I want to actually play this one. Sorry, this one. It's the other one. Okay.
It's for China. President Trump's not going to let that happen.
The list goes on.
The owner of TikTok.
If you win that case and you get...
I think we're going to get it.
Sorry, it's the wrong one. Anyway, wait, I'll search for the right one while you're talking.
So here's my read on that. It's totally up in the air what's going to happen. So my opinion is, if Iran falls, then we will see one world government. Because I think right after that, you will see India-Pakistan war. This is my opinion, because that was just a ceasefire that didn't end it. So, and then you will keep getting these wars, and then there will be something in Arab world. Because even if Iran fall, there are some proxies will left. They will fight, and then you will see the whole destruction. At that time, a big brother will come in and say, now we need to have one world government, so nobody will fight each other. And
Yeah. So by the way, let's first play the other one before we sort of move to the next topic. But I do want to say something about that one.
Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space.
Yes.
How exactly does that work?
One satellite could deliver electricity to that spot and 1,000 other spots. What China is building is a solar array that can absorb that sun's power. And then you beam that radio wave down to Earth, back into electricity. In a millisecond, they could turn it into a directed energy weapon to destroy.
Say that again?
Yeah. If the communication is observed, it will rewrite history, and it will never have happened. It is the evidence of God.
Anyway, that entire interview is a must-see, and I always say, like, it used to be like, who controls the sea controls continents, right?
Oh.
And Kissinger would say, like, he who controls the money controls the world, right? But
by the way, before you continue, breaking news: the B-2 bomber which bombed Iran landed back in Missouri just now.
Okay,
so U.S. is out of that region. Anyway, continue.
So the naval power used to be the most important power on Earth, right? The Navy is, of course, within the U.S. Army. Also, personally, I think it's the most important branch of the U.S. Army. You also see it within the UAP file. They have the best technology research and development, and basically the Navy is most important, even though the Air Force always claims that it is the most important. But I think it's the Navy actually.
No, it depends on the country.
Yeah, but
If you, for example, United States, naval is important. But if there are two bordering countries, naval doesn't matter because they can.
okay,
That's where Air Force is important.
True. Look at Israel, right? I mean, Air Force is, of course, the most important element in Israeli defense. But I mean, technically, how the Western world became as big from a military perspective was, of course, through their naval power, right? That's how they control, and how the US controls the world. And then, now we got space. Right, so space is more important than the water system, right? That's why Trump created the Space Force. And then it's kind of logical that if you control the moon, you control space, right? So it's he who controls space controls the Earth or the world, and he controls the moon, controls space. So I think so. With what I said before, like with the entire setup of the system, and we chose chaos instead of order. Right now, somebody, you're reaching that point, the chicken, somebody has to chicken out, right? So, or somebody has to make a move. And Trump or the US just made its move because they're losing, right? I mean, Deng Xiaoping made the move to rare earth minerals like in the 90s, and he said like rare earth minerals will be the oil of the future. And he turned out to be right and a visionary, but we don't exactly know what was the arrangement between Besant and Xi Jinping, right? Maybe there wasn't a deal, or maybe the deal was not satisfactory, or maybe China backed out of the deal again by not delivering these rare earth minerals, and then you got the Road and Belt Initiative that is just growing and growing. I mean, the US has always used the Mackinder theory of dividing Europe and Eurasia, from, making sure that the Eurasian continent doesn't become one giant entity. And I think the US is building an American equivalent of the, a reverse Mackinder theory, by uniting the Americas into one. That's my opinion. I think that's what Trump is actually trying to do. Against a Eurasian continent, but China is growing. I think China is in the lead actually. When you see these clips, what China is doing on the backside of the moon, and they have no idea what they're doing, and they can create gigantic directed energy weapons. And Iran is, a point where they can hit, unexpectedly, like they did. It's like a very important node within the BRICS ecosystem, and they you can also say that the US used Israel. Only I think that's one of the ways you can explain this without saying that they completely went batshit crazy, or revert to prophecies and millennialism. I think that's the correct term. But I think that's sort of the geopolitical game that's being played out. That at some point you will get more chaos, right? It was inevitable. It's baked into the system, and somebody has to make a move or lose, right?
Yeah. By the way, regarding rare earth minerals, Pakistan recently found approximately $50 billion worth of rare earth minerals.
And I got another one, right? So we wanted to do
in Pakistan. So this is what I'm saying. So that's a whole different ball game we are talking about.
I think that ties into your. That probably validates your claim that they're eyeing Pakistan. I mean, they went next door with Afghanistan. Probably there's a lot of rare earth minerals there too. I wouldn't be surprised. But
this is like a lot of that, 50 trillion. So that's why, since they found it, I just saw Trump's rhetoric change toward Pakistan. They are like all buddy right now. But I don't think Pakistan will trust Trump because they have betrayed a lot of people with being a good, pretending to be a good faith actor and then backstabbing them.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of
So I don't.
yeah. I mean,
So Pakistanis are not like good guys as well. They also
no,
play the
yeah,
double game.
no. And then I
They
think
also play the double game.
I think you said it like I think in our very first show that there are no good guys. Like
There are
I
no
think
good
I
guys.
think that's the right way to put it. Like everybody
Yeah.
has an agenda, and
Exactly.
no, but and especially right now it's power politics and who's the strongest and sneakiest wins, right? And they will do anything to achieve it. But where there's more, where there's also a lot of rare earth minerals.
Yeah.
In the Gulf of America and surrounding
yeah.
areas, and there's also other
Previously
stuff.
known as Gulf of Mexico.
But did you know that Google actually already changed it on the map to Gulf of
Yes,
America?
I know that. Yeah.
Actually, so we were going to talk about Atlantis in America, and actually the Gulf of America plays a role in that story, which is, I think, another reason that they changed the name to America. And what's also interesting is that the word America actually already existed long before that Americans came to America. So you actually have an indigenous term, America, which predated the Europeans going there. So that's very, very interesting as well. I think it was Lacroix who also made some major discoveries recently with Göbekli Tepe and surrounding areas, which we're also going to talk about in Atlantis and Antarctica. So I don't know. I actually got a lot of stuff lined up. You want to go to the UAP stuff?
Yeah, let's just go. It's been 1 hour, and I think everything is connected. To start the conversation, I'll just say they picked the right time to to release those videos and all those disclosure, because nobody's paying attention to that thing. And to be honest, if aliens land this time, half of the world will care because most of the people will still keeping an eye on the Middle East situation.
I like this one.
No time for me. Yeah. I want to talk about that. That statement that now I have bombed nuclear facility. Now it's the time for peace. Are you fucking insane? How is that make sense to you? Like, how can you write this stupid shit? By the way, I was a big supporter of Trump, but he messed it up. You just had one job, not to start a war. Fucking hell, you destroyed everything.
Well, we'll play a couple of clips more and then move on. Right, I got them lined up anyway. So first of all, to sort of go what you just said with Trump, I'm not sure if you saw
growing up in Sunday school.
You saw the interview.
I saw that, and that's like the most hilarious thing out there. The whole interview is amazing.
Yeah, you guys have to see this, but this is one of the high points.
Well, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the...
It's in Genesis. So you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two...
Hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on. Define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
So is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the
God's
descendants of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis, is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks for itself how ridiculous.
First of all, they don't even know their Bible. I've just sent you the actual quote of Genesis they are talking about. I'll
Yeah.
read it off for you.
Yeah.
That okay. God, Genesis 12:3. God tells Abraham that he will make him a great nation, and that through him all the families of the earth will be blessed. He also states, I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curse you, I will curse. And all the people on earth will be blessed through you. There is no Israel in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's Abraham is not just the father of the Jews, he's also the father of Arabs. The
Yeah.
Prophet Muhammad is also the son of Abraham through the lineage of Ishmael. So the idea that, and also, even if the God said Israel, he would be talking about the Israel that the what's his name, Jacob, his sons, not the nation of Israel. So they are two conflating things. I'm so surprised at the stupidity of this uh, that this senator of Texas or wherever he is from,
Yeah.
that he
I
thinks
think
it's the, this nation of Israel. God is talking about this country.
so. I know.
Also, he's not even quoting the right quote from the Genesis.
Well, and to be honest, like, I mean, why would you bomb Iran because of a biblical quote, or that you have to support somebody? I mean, let's hope by God, if if you want to put it like that, that they are not making decisions based on biblical verses.
Yeah. Also, the biblical verse is applied to Abraham, so it's all both the nations, not just like the Ishmael, the Israelis, also the Ishmaelis. Ishmaelis
Yeah,
are
yeah,
like Arabs, so you have
yeah.
to apply it to both.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just ridiculous, and I mean, of course, he's doing it because to mobilize the believers, in favor of Trump. I mean, he will, of course, get a little bit of new support from neocons and hardcore Christian conservatives in some areas, even though I imagine that most of them are also kind of sick of all the war and
Yeah.
are not waiting for another one.
Oh, by the way, if you are following Bible, you are bombing Middle East like Arabs for a very long time. You dumbass, you are actually on the other side. You are like on the cursing side. You have to apply this law to Arabs as well.
Yeah, you're just human beings, right?
Human being, but even if like you are a dumbass Bible thumper, if you
Yeah.
are following Bible, then at least human being thing is for you, me, and other people like who are actually human. These guys who are religious fanatic, and by the way, when I say religious fanatic, I mean every religious fanatic,
Yeah, yeah,
Muslim, Jews, and
yeah,
Christians. So
yeah,
there
yeah,
are those people everywhere. So when you're looking at even from that lens,
yeah.
at least follow the right scripture.
Yeah. And anyway, so I want to play. Okay, let's first do the joke to lighten things up a little bit. And I really found this one pretty funny.
Let's see.
Okay, guys, I want to clarify about the big surprise, because everybody's been giving me shit about this all day because nothing happened. So here goes, okay? I did have a big surprise. But when I gave the order to detonate, they told me we had no nuclear scientists anymore. They're all dead. So I said, you know what? Bring me the freaking bomb. I will detonate that bitch myself. They said, sir, there is no bomb. So I said, what do you mean there is no bomb? And they said, no bomb, sir. We just heard Israel say we had one, so we all thought we had one. But we don't have shit. And then the morning came, and I was all depressed and shit, so that's what happened. Okay, guys.
That was pretty funny, right?
Yeah, but this is a misinformation they've spread because the only reason Iran does not have nuclear bomb is this man. Khamenei issued a fatwa against nuclear bomb. That's why they didn't build it. Otherwise, they would have built it, and nobody would have attacked them like North Korea or anything. This
Yeah.
man, Khamenei, fucked everyone with his.
But
This is what I'm saying. The problem with
yeah.
Iranians, like they are following the rules of Shia Islam, where you are not
Yeah.
allowed to harm civilians. So that's why he issued that fatwa, and they don't have bomb. Otherwise,
But
it's so easy to build bomb.
but in Shia Islam, it's also allowed to deceive, right? They also have
No,
an allowance for the deception.
to just no, not deception. It's just to save your life. You are allowed to lie or someone else's life. That's the specific thing. That's
But
called takai. No, they're only, that thing is also need to be corrected. They're only allowed to do it to save your life or someone else's life. You're not allowed to do it to harm someone else.
well,
And
anyway,
fatwas don't work like that. You don't issue fatwa. So again, when you issue a fatwa, you
okay,
cannot do that.
but
So
okay, but
that's again different thing. When you issue a fatwa, it cannot be a takayya.
yeah.
Takayya is their thing where you do it for a specific reason, but you cannot issue basically you mistruth it, but you don't give a commandment. The moment you give commandment, that's not takayya. That's not allowed. That's haram. So
I
it's
do
very
think,
specific.
to be
No,
honest,
I know Shia Islam very well. Trust me.
I know,
No, you can talk
I
anything
know.
better than me, but with Shia Islam, I know everything. I've
I know, but
read
I
their
do
every
think,
book.
with geopolitics, I think it trumps religion, and I think,
But then he won't issue a fatwa. He would just say a commandment, like just say a statement. But when you issue a fatwa, it's a whole different story. It's a religious uh, authority on that. So you don't put a fatwa on there. You could just say that we don't want it, but you won't issue a fatwa. It's a religious order.
but okay,
That's
but then again, right? I want to play one more clip, and then we're gonna move on. But I
okay.
want to ask you one thing. Like, okay, so because the Western world, I mean, the US actually also said that like multiple times in their negotiations, like they are all pro giving Iran a civilian nuclear option, right? If they are
Yeah,
gonna deal with them. So if Iran only wants a civilian nuclear option, then why didn't they take that deal?
they did take the deal. Trump ripped it up. They were taking the deal. They were following it. Trump came into power, and then he said, "No more deal." It wasn't Iran who backed off. It was United States who ripped the deal. That's what
Mm.
happened. Iran
So
was for, and then they were passing every single inspection. IEA
yeah, that's
also
true.
released a statement, and even Tulsi Gabbard, few months ago, released a statement that Iran is not building a nuclear bomb. It wasn't on Iran's side. The reason now they enriched to 60% because Trump pulled it out, and they used it as a
So,
leverage to
okay,
go
okay,
back on the deal.
but then I have a follow-up question. Like, why did he rip it up, and what? Because it clearly he wanted them to make a deal. Like, what? So
No,
what
there
kind
was
of deal?
already a deal in place.
Yeah,
So
okay,
Obama
but
already pulled.
okay,
He's the
okay,
one who pulled out. So it's not
okay.
like he wanted to make a deal.
Granted. But then
Yeah.
he wanted a new deal, right? He clearly wanted a deal.
No, he didn't want it. It was all deception. We could see they bombed it while during that they didn't want to look. There
So
was
you
a
think
plan in.
they didn't wanted any deal? Like that was
No,
just erased.
yeah, and what he's demanding, what the New Deal is, he proposed at zero enrichment, no more nuclear program. This is impossible. They said this is not going to happen.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
deal he proposed to them is that you will not work on the nuclear technology. They said we want to do it for our crisis, our energy crisis. Everybody have a right to have a civilian program. He said no, zero enrichment. So you can't do a nuclear research. That's the
Okay. So
whole problem.
okay, we were gonna play one more clip, which sort of ties all of this together. I think we're more or less on the same line. I mean, clearly the fallout will be devastating, and I think there won't be an immediate World War III, right? I think we've been in World War III for 2 years now since the end of COVID, but it
Since years,
starts,
yeah.
starts up slowly, and then it becomes bigger and bigger
It
as more and more.
started with Russia-Ukraine war.
Yeah. That's sort of the first proxy war, and of course the flashpoints with Taiwan, and you got flashpoints all over the place. The South China Sea, you name it. But it grows bigger and bigger and bigger, and now we're reaching the point where we're going to the next level, and that a new standard has been set. You can use heavier military equipment. We're going to see new military stuff enter the battlefield. There will be more war, more dead people, and instability. And this ties into that.
Strike wasn't sudden, it was scheduled. engineered, permitted. Israel didn't just act out of self-defense. The deeper mission was to disrupt Iran's growing alignment with China, Russia, and the BRICS bloc, sabotage Iran's attempt to shift oil sales away from the US dollar, and send a message to the rest of the Middle East. You either follow the Western system or you burn. Meanwhile, Iran's retaliation wasn't reckless rage. It was a calculated countermove, testing defenses, gauging responses, and showing the world it will not bow without response. The elites need global destabilization to justify centralization. One digital currency, one defense system, one global authority. To birth a new world order, they must first break the old one. What better way than triggering chaos in the most sensitive energy region on Earth, drawing in powers like China, Russia, and NATO into pressure postures, and pushing oil prices sky high, crashing economies, and blaming war instead of manipulation. The Israel-Iran war is the ignition point, not the fire. It's the start of a series of flashpoints coordinated to make the world beg for solutions to the chaos the system created. Will this become WWIII? Not immediately. But it could, and that's the plan. Expect more proxy wars, cyber attacks blamed on foreign enemies, food chain disruptions, and emergency summits. The goal: to erode borders, control narratives, and usher in the peacekeeper system, centralized digital authority disguised as safety. This isn't random. It's ritual, and you were never meant to see it unfold. But now you do. And when enough of us wake up, we reclaim our role, not as pawns, but as builders of a new reality rooted in truth, sovereignty, and light. They move in shadows, but you are the signal they couldn't silence.
So I think that's a nice summary of...
This is actually, yeah, it's a very good summary. And also, what I just realized, Trump attacked Iran and then returned back home just to do one thing, to close the Strait of Hormuz. He knew when he attacked, they will close the Strait of Hormuz, and then the economy will collapse, and they have to bring in the new currency, central banking. Because then everybody knows that after closing Hormuz and then Yemenis are closing the other side, the global trade of the petroleum will get affected, currency will get messed up, and then they have to release a new currency. That's it.
Yeah, but I think you got two different takes on it, and I'm more leaning to the second take. The first take is, what my brother often says, it's like one giant charade, right? It's all pre-planned. It is everybody's in on it. It's all make-believe. And then you got the second take, which is my personal take. I think there's clear evidence that countries, factions, groups, people are fighting against each other at the top, and you got some working together and some working against each other. And I think
agree with that one.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing this battle going on for one faction, multiple factions, right? It's not just two.
By the way,
but I think they what you say, like, and what he says, I think is true. Like, they all want a similar thing. They want CBDCs, and they gonna use the
they don't have to be on the same conspiracy, because these people are predictable. So if one person do something and they know the response is going to be, they will do that, and then they make the other country do that. So it's like, even though you are not in the same team, but you are giving the same result.
Yeah, and I want to highlight this. The EU intends to launch its central bank digital currency, the digital euro, in October this year. The European Central Bank head, Christine Lagarde, said it is piloted on a fairly large scale in China, where it was of use and of service to all citizens. So it is not something that is good for the elite, or is good for the young, or is good for some versus others. It is well done in China, apparently, and if it is well implemented, it would be of service to all humanity and all citizens. CBDCs not only enable authorities to track who spends what, where, and when. They are programmable, allowing money to be restricted, confiscated, of course, for specific uses. The imposition of expiry dates and the ability to freeze or limit spending on user behavior or location. And that's just the beginning, in my opinion, but that's sort of the preamble. And once integrated with digital ID, facial recognition, social credit scores, and carbon allowances, CBDCs facilitate totalitarian control on an unprecedented scale. So, I mean, this and the Stablecoin Act, the Genius Act, is of course more of the same, only like a different flavor. but yeah, they're sowing chaos and discord. I think the Chinese model is more order based. The Chinese hate disorder and chaos, like with a passion. So I think we were in the Chinese model, and now we're moving to the American model, which is disruption, chaos, shock, all right. It's all over the place, So I think these two types of models are battling it out, but they if we are not careful, and if people don't wake up, and if they're paralyzed by fear because of World War III or all this nonsense going on, they will implement these measures of control and usher in a new time. And I think to put a bow on it, right, all of this stuff that we talked about is the perfect setup for Project Bluebeam. I mean, it's like exactly what they predicted with Project Bluebeam. If this
it's better than expected.
I never expected that Trump would do this. Never in a million years, but he did. Okay, so I'll put the timestamp at 1:15 for the people in YouTube who want to skip ahead to the UAP stuff. So there are three things. Okay, let's first do the fun things before we go to the.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna bring coffee because I need coffee. I'll be back in a second.
Okay, no problem. No problem. I'm gonna select the clips in the meantime. I got a lot of them. It's a shame because when you move out of it, YouTube sometimes restarts, so that is annoying. While Sid is coming back, I think I'm gonna play. Okay, let's first do the. Well, it's all fun. So you probably heard this because this is a while ago. You got the article from the Wall Street Journal, and actually the New York Post chimed in on it, and that they claimed there was the Pentagon did a disinformation that fueled America's UFO mythology. So basically, this Wall Street Journal article went after people like David Grush and Louis Elizondo, and basically all the whistleblowers that have come out and discussed what's going on in the UAP world, and that there was a cover-up for 80 plus years by now, and that people were murdered to keep it secret, and that there was reverse engineering of NHI technology, and that their craft, the whole thing that we've been talking about on the bigger picture for 2 years now. More, I think 1.5 years, something like that. And this article says, no, nothing to see here, right? Yeah, we lied to you, but we didn't lie about the thing that you think we lied about. We actually lied about that it's real. So we pretended that there was a real UAP thing going on, and then we hazed people like David Grush and all the others in order to make them believe that there was something to UAPs, in order to cover up the fact that we have advanced military technology. And then the advanced military technology is just EMPs. That's the super advanced technology that the US apparently has developed in secret, and some other stupid stuff. And then the other thing is they go to Malmstrom. Malmstrom was like a base. I have to wait. I'll say it the right way. I think I got it. Where do I have it? I got too many stuffs open. Give me a second. I think it's okay. I got it. So, in 1967, there was a UFO incident in Malmstrom, and Malmstrom is one of those bases, U.S. bases, where they have, nuclear warheads, and it involved the shutdown of 10 nuclear warheads at that base in 1967. And they claim that they were shut down not by a UFO, because that's actually the story. Also, that's actually the official DoD story. For people who don't know, it's like Ross Coulthart actually did some fact checking, and he found out that it's actually their own, by their own admission, the evidence from their own declassified documents proving the Wall Street Journal explanation for the 1967 Malmstrom kept Robert Saleh's deactivation of 10 thermonuclear missiles was not an EMP test, as the Washington Journal preposterously claimed. Maybe this is a cue for the Washington Journal editor to do the work and actually start properly investigating UAPs. Anyway, so that was their claim, and then of course these claims were demolished by Ross Coulthard. So I'm gonna play a couple of clips from that.
All right, let's go.
Investigation. I don't know what's more serious, running a disinformation operation against its own officers and the public, or, as Mario has pointed out, the incredibly dangerous act of putting an electromagnetic pulse through a site that controls nuclear weapons. In and of itself, this must be investigated, mustn't it?
Absolutely. I wouldn't have my stash of July 4th fireworks and just, for curiosity's sake, go fire up my 5,000 watt generator and hook the jumper cables onto it and see what happens. And there's no metrology equipment that was installed on the base to figure out what the results were. I mean, taking 10 ICBMs offline with an EMP, they didn't know if they were going to come back online or not, and then you're compromising a whole wing of missiles. So it's just ludicrous at its face that they would do that, and there's no metrology equipment to test the results.
I mean, frankly, I would have hoped and expected that the officers that had ordered such an operation would have been put before a courts-martial and asked to explain themselves. I mean, it's a gross dereliction of duty, isn't it, Mario, to put the strategic nuclear deterrence at risk with some kind of pulse weaponry without knowing the consequences?
No one has that authority. That's just the end of it. I mean, nobody has the authority to conduct such an experiment. Perhaps Sandia National Labs or some of the other laboratories, they may have done that, but not on an active in-service missile complex. There's just no way that they would be taken down in a test.
So basically what Arrow and Sean Fitzpatrick are claiming is that the Malmstrom incident with the UAP sighting and multiple witnesses on a active military base where they guard thermonuclear weapon systems of the United States, that the Air Force secretly, without telling anybody, did an EMP attack on those nuclear warheads in order to test EMP technology before it existed. And that's the official story that the Washington Journal put out in order to claim that there are no UAPs.
Yeah,
so
that's
they're being butchered because it's just super silly. And then just imagine like what is necessary in order to put an EMP up to the base, right? Because nobody saw anything, right? There are like 11 people on the base, and they're watching continuously. It's like an open field. There's no obstructions, right? You can see far and away. And, the Air Force is on dial, quick dial in order, if there's anything ready, they'll fly in Apaches and jets in order to take out.
Also, they don't understand that EMP doesn't work on a specific thing. It turns off everything, including if you have a watch, it stops moving. Like if you have the old watch and digital one, obviously, but it stops everything. You can't just turn off nuclear like ICBMs with that EMP wave. This is bunch of bull crap.
Yeah, I think I got it. Here, I actually had the timestamp, but give me 1 second.
But yeah, this is like they come up with the most dumbest. Like who write these articles? They don't even do basic research.
I think I got it here. Look, listen to this. I hope I got it right, but I think this was the right timestamp. Okay, what would be necessary to do what the Washington Journal or Sean Kirkpatrick claims happened? And Sean Kirkpatrick is, he was the former head of Arrow, and he's a physicist. By the way, what's interesting about Sean Kirkpatrick? Wait, I'll just pull up his bio. That's this guy, by the way. He's a total stooge, deep state stooge. But anyway, he was also an American laser and materials physicist. And we mentioned that before with Puthoff and Tark and many other people. They're all into lasers, laser systems, directed energy weapons. And what we know from the work of Ashton Forbes are that lasers and this 0-point energy and nuclear energy all are connected. But anyway, I'm gonna play you this. This is ridiculous. Like, this would have been necessary in 1967 in order to make it all work. What Kirkpatrick claims happened.
As Mario has said, you would have needed, and as you've said, you would have needed these absolutely gigantic 60-foot tall, multiple 1,000-ton concrete pillars in order to execute this test.
The steel A-frames, but they had to pour the footings that were 5 foot by 4 foot by 2 feet deep. It takes a couple, 3 days for that concrete to harden with the eye bolts. Then they assemble the metal frames with the hoops in it. And once they're all assembled, then they pull up the whole 1,000-foot span with a crane to get them vertical. And then you have an antenna that's basically 30 feet in diameter and 1,000 feet long. And then you have to set the generator over the top of the facility. This huge multi-story size generator that has a maximum of 60 feet above the facility.
Now, this would be funny if it wasn't so serious.
Yeah, so that they
I like what he said in the end. It would be funny if it wasn't that serious.
Yeah, so they would need to do this in secret without anybody on the base noticing that they were there doing that in order to do the EMP attack, right? And yeah, that's and these guys are specialists. One of them is actually also a UAP experiencer. The guy on the right actually experienced a really incredible UAP story, which he tells at the end. He was one of those people at the base who actually was sort of a pro. They came out of their what you call it, headquarters or whatever, to see this gigantic orange ball floating above the base, and then he sort of got teleported even in his car, or at least he lost time. It's an incredible story. It's a really wild story. But anyway, to give a little bit more context, Jesse Mitchells also did a really good breakdown about Wall Street Journal. Here.
About 5 minutes later, this time he was screaming into the phone saying they're looking at an object, a red glowing object hovering just above our front gate.
All 10 missiles were off alert, all 10. Whole flight was off alert, all red.
Salas even had a colleague present named Bob Jameson who backed up his testimony on record with Larry King.
Is it possible they just malfunctioned?
That doesn't happen. Very rarely does a missile malfunction. Much more rare would be 2 at the same time, but never 10.
In fact, the guy who most thoroughly documents the Malmstrom case in 1967 is the author of the great book, UFOs and Nukes. His name is Robert Hastings, and he is the authoritative chronicler of 167 Q-cleared nuclear base employees that have all witnessed UFOs.
Declassified U.S. government documents and witness testimony from former or retired U.S. military personnel confirm beyond any doubt the reality of ongoing UFO incursions at nuclear weapons sites.
In many cases, these UFOs have tampered with various nuclear sites across the country. Strangely enough, Bob Hastings figured out the connection between UFOs and nuclear weapons because his father was stationed at Malmstrom Nuclear Base in 1967.
So that is one part. So, basically they are claiming, so the Wall Street Journal, based on Sean Kirkpatrick, and Sean Kirkpatrick, his claim is that when he was still director of Arrow, and Arrow was of course created in order to look into the whole UAP thing, And then they put out a report and they said, oh, there's nothing there to see. And now they put out sort of this story in order to say, like, okay, we didn't want to, embarrass our intelligence agencies because there was something there, because there was this hazing ritual where people were being told that it was, real, but it was actually fake because we wanted to hide our secret technology, which is not that, fancy. And then secondly, you got the Malmstrom case that they used in order to say what happened there was not a UFO in the sky. It was actually an EMP, and people mistook it for the real thing, even though EMPs were not developed then, also not in secret, because they also released all that kind of stuff. And if you did do it, like, you had to build this gigantic installation outside of the base without telling anybody, and then run an EMP charge through thermonuclear. Well, anyway, we're going to jump into that second bit over here, right?
Do reversible damage. They take out all electronics in their vicinity. These missiles came back online. Maybe you could argue that EMPs can at times cause temporary downtime, but we definitely didn't have the ability to use EMPs this precisely before they were even operational. That's an insane claim that I don't even think the Wall Street Journal would pretend to defend. There are literally no logs or records anywhere from Malmstrom or any employees of that base saying these missiles didn't come back online. So they didn't just take out 10 missiles with an EMP and then turn them back on. That's extremely basic physics that Sean Kirkpatrick, a supposed physicist and the head of AARO, the All-Domain Anomalies Resolution Office, who clearly spoon-fed all of this bad information to Joel Schechtman, a man who needs to up his fact-checking game, should know.
Get up, you lazy little bitches! Get up!
Okay, and then you have this second claim that the article makes, that Air Force hazing rituals explain widespread UFO mythology. Can someone please, for the love of God, explain documents from the Air Force dating back to 1949 discussing an emergency meeting around UFOs and nukes taking place at killing base camps with the Army CIC, FBI, Office of Naval Intelligence, and CIA present? This FBI document discussing the same UFO and nuclear connection. Or in 1947, General Nathan Twining, responsible for all aircraft development in the Air Force at the time, saying that UFOs are not visionary or fictitious. Tell me how debunking one nuclear UFO-related case in 1967 explains a town in Japan next to their nuclear civilian grid in Fukushima, where the residents have frequent sightings and are obsessed with UFOs, or at Bariloche, Argentina, next to their civilian grid, where a commercial pilot in 1995 literally couldn't land the plane due to an outage and a UFO chasing his plane. What about Bob Jacobs' sighting in 1964?
Well, etc., etc. He goes through a whole list of cases. but basically, even on face value, even when you just look at the Malmstrom incident, the whole article, is debunked. And they're going to do a follow-up story in order to probably take out David Grush and Louis Elizondo. But right now they're licking their wounds because they have been totally obliterated.
Yeah, it's not gonna work anymore.
No, but
people are way more woke now, and I'm not talking about like the left one. I'm talking about like really awakened of the truth, how the deception is working, and you can see that everywhere, even regarding the wars. Don't want to go back, but you can see the people's reaction. They know what's happening, how they are being fooled. And then with the UFO stuff, like, you can attack David Grush. It's already proven, nothing gonna happen. Nobody gonna believe. Everybody gonna trust David Grush over any US government narrative.
Absolutely agree. And that's a good thing. But of course, war, like, if you create like real war, like especially total war or something close to it, like, people will become very fearful and distracted, right, from these kind of issues. And I think the Wall Street Journal and the New York Post, who sort of ran these anti-UAP videos and articles, and especially this piece with Sean Kirkpatrick, who has been caught lying over and over again by the UAP community, also with his previous report that we went over the last time. They should still pull him out. But anyway, basically, this is sort of like a last-ditch effort in order to sort of cover up the cover-up. Say, trust us now, even though we're lying to you about, lying to you. Like, but and then the war breaks out, right? So it distracts from this total failure and the momentum behind the UAP movement. And there's a lot of stuff that came out, right? So first of all, this was really cool. This is actually some good footage that they released. So this is George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, yeah, of course. Look at it.
More. So this is a platform way up there that's looking down on some clouds, and it spots something moving around that is unusual from way up there, right?
It wasn't seeking like an active capture. It just happened to come in. And this is why I think it was alerted all throughout the intelligence community that this is a famous video, that people have all seen this, because if you have access to very specific, I guess, areas within our government, a lot of people that we know have seen it.
Yes.
And so the thing drops down and moves, and I'm like, I can barely see anything. Boom, I open the next video, and they had punched in, and you can see this smooth movement of what looks like a disc, and it drops down. It appears to go inside of a cloud cover, and then during that it changes direction abruptly and starts moving, and then goes into another cloud area.
The following is video number 2.
Oh, what happened? Oh, damn.
Now,
okay, so that's
this video was crazy, man.
Okay, but wait, I got one more, because you got 3 videos. Like the first one was not so spectacular, so I skipped that one. By the way, for the people who want to know more, watch that video, because they give a lot of context. They also give they go into the background of how they obtain these videos. They even go into sort of the Wall Street Journal, New York Post thing. Actually, George Knapp says some really nice things about the reporters of the Wall Street Journal being fed wrong information, and he hopes and thinks that maybe they will up their skill and up their fact checking, and he thinks they're doing honest reporting. I have my doubts, but he says some kind words. And then this is the third video.
Did an enhancement with a glitch, but I just want people to understand it's a smooth motion, and look at the original footage for that. But I think we can do a semi-better quality enhancement, and we're going to try to do that. It's AI, so it might like fill in a little bit. So that's not the video, but it's just a way to better demonstrate without a glitch. But again, I'm not working off of source material. This is just, being knucklehead trying to do this with my pal.
The following is video number 3.
Okay, and then you got this guy.
I love the video number 2. That was like the best video.
And then this guy, he's called ProPixel, and he does a lot of work to sort of enhance his videos and analyze them, for artifacts and glitches and all that kind of stuff. He's really good. Give him a follow. He went over this video too. So he says, when we really clean it up and punch it up, it looks like a sphere distorted space, as if it is similar to a black hole or a black body object. Here we go. So he sort of points out that I think it was this video or another video, but that the light sort of bends around it as it sort of moves past the clouds. That you can actually see sort of the distortion of the light as if it is a black hole.
Yeah. Also, it could be a disk. It doesn't have to be a sphere, because in the second
Yeah.
video, it looks like a disk to me.
Yeah, yeah. The U.S. Army, or I think it was the U.S. Army, but maybe it was the Air Force. I don't know. But the group who sort of got this material and they leaked it, they talk about the disk. They call it the disk.
Yeah.
So that's from their own mouth. Jeremy Corbell also goes into that, and then you got this one. We're gonna run to it a little bit quick because we're way over time.
Yeah.
We're more in like a future episode. We're gonna dive more into this one, but I want to just give you an idea about the stuff that's going on.
And if you looked at a particular place over Secret Mountain, you would see this big orb being escorted by helicopters rising from behind Secret Mountain. And we watched at 1:30 in the morning, and sure enough, up comes this beautiful golden orb, gigantic. It pulses, it's plasmatic.
And so where my mind might go with that is that this is some sort of global control system.
But an object about a mile behind us and it's following us. Let's hope they're friendly.
One of the first things that one of my sources in that Georgetown pub back in probably 2018 told me was, it's all about consciousness.
You've probably met more people in and around these programs than anybody else alive.
You are saying to the human race, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone.
Anyway, he chuckled. And I remember he just let slip something like, yeah, the Americans wanted that one shut down pretty quickly.
Whoa. It's a multi-minute long video of this thing flying in the air. And there are symbols around the top. I showed photos of the symbols to Mario Woods and to Randy Anderson, and both of them freaked out.
We went to his home and saw this sphere apparently move under its own power. People have been murdered. Because I'm told that the briefing that the FBI gave in Congress really blew people away. I have no doubt they think they're going to get away with it. And you know what?
Why?
They probably will.
So this is just the intro. You know, Jesse.
Oh my god!
You can put nice intros.
Yeah.
So watch that video. I'll also link it underneath, and we'll return to it in a future episode because we can't cover it right now. But you know, these are sort of the revelations that are coming out right now. The new material coming out, and you know, it is just snowballing. It's bigger and bigger and bigger with every week, and impossible for us to cover. But I want to highlight one more thing because that's probably the biggest of all, and we covered this before, but. Wait, I'm gonna play it, and when you see it, you'll know it. But Philip Biondi, sorry.
Trees. And this is the 3D model that we are working on. Here I show you the last. Yeah.
So basically, they found an entire city underneath the Giza Plateau. Right? It started with one pyramid, and now they're mapping the entire terrain, and they're putting it more and more in 3D models, and putting all the information that they got together, and the new information that they're getting. And this presentation, which is about, I think, over an hour, or an hour. I think it was an hour. It's a really good presentation, and people can ask questions, and he answers the questions, and he explains all the technology. He actually goes, the first 10 minutes is actually not about the pyramids, but about all his other work that he did for the European Space Agency and for CERN, and, mapping these underground cavities and explaining how the technology actually works. And then the 2/3 of the rest of the presentation is about what they found underneath those pyramids. And you saw the 3D models. That stuff is...
Well, that could be a good idea, because if they map every pyramid and surrounding, maybe they find a mega structure which is connecting all these pyramids and other things like Sphinx and everything. So I think that's a good idea to scan everything. And to be honest, after listening to Zahi Hawass, I completely trust Filippo Biondi, because these guys are doing the scientific work, and the archaeologists are just stuck to their primitive thinking. That's it. So I trust the flip will be on the guy and the
Yeah.
team.
No, yeah, and he's just a world-renowned expert in his field of
Yeah.
SAR technology, and he just developed a new type of SAR technology, the Doppler effect, and he explains how that works and why he's unique. I think he even patented it. I'm not sure, but I think he did. They also had like this open. That's basically peer-reviewed, but it's my girlfriend explained to me that it's not technically peer-reviewed because it's only officially peer-reviewed if it's reviewed by Nature or one of these big scientific.
It's not peer reviewed for sure.
But it has been reviewed by other scientists, but they are not official scientists, so it doesn't count as peer.
It's been refuted by scientists like Zayavas, so it doesn't matter.
No, but also by others. I think by four different groups.
Okay.
So that they are getting peer review. Only it only counts if it's like by official peers.
Okay.
Yeah, don't ask me why. But so this is all the stuff that's coming out while the war is raging, or about to get a lot bigger. And I think the most important thing is that the Wall Street Journal and the Pentagon and the Department of Defense, and especially Sean Kirkpatrick, were losing their battle, right? I mean, this was like a desperate, idiotic, clumsy way to lie their way out of the truth, right? So I think it was also very much a distraction from that, at least trying to distract from it as best as they could. But we'll see if it worked.
Yeah.
By the way, my background disappeared.
Oh yeah, I just noticed it. Well, good. That's
Yeah.
fine.
So it was it was a good show. I think we covered it all. Again, we don't have anything against Iranian people or Jewish people or any other people, and we don't want to spread.
Well, we have everything
information.
against the global cabal who is
Yeah.
trying to put us
Yeah, and
into misery. Yeah.
I think Graham Hancock put out a really nice video. I think it was actually an old video that they sort of reposted, but that he sort of said like, we should stop listening to our leaders. Like, our leaders don't have our best interest at heart. None of our leaders do. I think it's kind of obvious that our incentives are no longer aligned with their population's incentives, right? I mean, clearly they aren't. I've been arguing that our leaders, because many people say, oh, why did our leaders go crazy, right? They say, oh, this leader goes crazy, that leader goes crazy. That they don't go crazy, but their incentives are no longer aligned with ours. And that's why it seems like they're going crazy, but they're doing something else entirely, right? So, and they're trying to
Trump
distract.
proven that there are no independent leaders. They are all following the same script. They do what their masters told them to do, even
Yeah.
though they put something out, but they do what they have to do.
Well, yeah, and then again, like I'm of the opinion that you got different factions, different groups, but that their incentives are more or less aligned because of the technology that's being developed. And so you got this secret technology that is about to come out, right? That's one element. And then the second element is that we're now creating these new technologies that are making people obsolete and very easily controllable. And so you don't really need people anymore. And the less people you have, the better. So basically, the people at the top can become gods, god kings, if they want, right? Also with CRISPR technology, nanotechnology, all these kind of different technologies that sort of reinforce and accelerate each other, let alone AI. And then on the other hand, you got this, CBDC system that can even go under the skin. And, I mean, what Lagarde is talking about is just the start, right? What they're doing in China is just, the superficial stuff that you can sort of limit somebody's spending or expiry dates. That's just child's play. What you can do with CBDC goes way beyond that if it gets out of control. So So yeah, that's my take. I think the leaders are no longer interested in people. Human capital is a thing.
Never.
Yeah, they needed us to get here, right?
Yeah.
And they still need us because of our psi powers probably, but they don't really need us, at least not in these numbers.
Yeah, they want global war to reduce the population.
Yeah, and to roll out a control state, like a complete control state.
The more people there are, it's harder to control them.
Yeah, but the good news, let's end on a good note, right? Chaos is good for Bitcoin. It's also good for people to wake up.
Bitcoin is crashing right now.
Yeah, but they can't stop it from going higher, right? I mean, Bitcoin is sort of inevitable. So chaos is a form of freedom. It allows for stuff to go out of control, which is good because that gives us opportunities to make things better. Mistakes can be made, and things get exposed. And
yeah.
So,
by the way, Bitcoin have broke the resistance and not resistance, support, and it's at 98,000. It's a massive drop, and it's gonna go down, down, and down. Nobody's happy with Trump.
Let's see. What did you say? Where is Bitcoin at the moment?
98,000 something.
Yeah, I think I think it will probably find support around 95 or something.
Because it broke 100K support, and now it's going to 95. It break that, then we're seeing 80.
Yeah, I think somewhere this week
around it
start bouncing back and go up. I mean, clear. Sid, all these entities, they simply need Bitcoin. They can't go. Can't go without Bitcoin. The whole space-based economy is impossible without Bitcoin.
This is what they want us to believe. I don't think Bitcoin is in their favor. I think maybe with XRP, because with their central banking currency, XRP could be a thing.
Bitcoin I mean, it will be a thing, right? Obviously, it will be a thing.
That's why they bought a lot of Bitcoin to control it, but I think it's hard to control. XRP, there are a lot of
but I think
it's easier to control.
I know. I mean, look, they want Bitcoin as collateral for their system, but they don't want to have wild Bitcoin, in our hands, right? But they do need Bitcoin in order to do what they want to do. Basically because they destroyed all trust in the system, they need to reestablish the foundation of trust, not only for us but also for themselves, right? They don't trust each other one bit, right? So, plus, if you start creating colonies on other planets, the first thing that colonies do is rebel and stop using, whatever it is that you give them, unless it is something that they can trust or neutral or, trustworthy. So, Bitcoin plus AI is aligned with Bitcoin. Everything is aligned with Bitcoin. So, no. No, I don't believe that. But yeah, XRP will be good. Probably.
Yeah.
For control.
Let's hope for the best, and let's see if we see golden age usher in our lifetime.
Yeah, it will be a bumpy ride. Hang on to your seat belt, and don't trust your leaders. Focus on your neighborhood. Do good things. Help your neighbors. Don't believe in divide and conquer, right? Because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make us hate each other. I think Carl Tucker really did a nice job pointing out that, the government shouldn't tell us who to hate, right? That you can decide that for yourself if you want to hate somebody, but don't let your government decide who to hate for you. So and stop fighting wars.
Yeah,
because it's a tinderbox.
Let's see. Let's hope Jesus returned and he saved humanity.
Yeah, and keep pushing for disclosure. Oh, okay, wait, that's one last thing, and then we're gonna wrap up. I actually got it. If there's any Americans watching, and I think there's quite a few, if you haven't yet, I've been sharing it. But this is the UAP Disclosure Act for congressional. It's a congressional petition please sign it, because it will push for more transparency and for more disclosure, and it put pressure on the Congress, to do something. And the more people sign this, the better. I'll link it down below. It's a shame I'm not American, so I can't sign it. So.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, take care, and next time, Atlantis and Antarctica.
All right, bye.
Take care.